So you want to join the elite membership of the Panther platform. Well, first things first, you got to know a little bit about the car in order to know what to look for. Because one thing you don't want is surprises that are going to cost you money. So stay tuned. Now before we jump into this video, you guys are probably asking yourself, who the heck is this guy? Old guy with a beard. Well, although I don't claim to be an expert at Panther platforms, and if you don't know what that is, that's Lincoln Town Car, Crown Victoria, and Mercury Grand Marquis. I've owned a lot of these cars, all the way back from a 1986 LTD up to a 2011 that you just saw in the intro. And because of that experience, I know a thing or two about a thing or two on these old Panther platforms. And being in the used car sales and service, as you can see by the garage doors behind me, we work on a lot of things and we see common failures. And although a lot of the repairs that you're going to see in this video are age related and issues depending on your geographic location, we obviously can't cover it all, but we're going to hit a lot of the common things that you may not be aware of and a few of the uncommon things that you need to look out for. So let's get into it with the number one problem with a Panther platform. So this number one thing, in my opinion, is exclusive to those who live in the upper Midwest and the Northeast, because this is what we deal with, and that's rust. Let's take a peek and I'll show you what we're looking for. This is an easy one. The front fenders on these Crown Vics, Grand Marquis, and Lincoln Town cars were common to rot out on the inner lip from the inside out. If left unprotected, this is what happens. That's pretty gross. And here's what it looks like before it goes too bad. All them bubbles, those are on the inside. The second part is the lower portion of these front fenders. This is a hollow cavity, and what ends up happening is dirt and crap get trapped in there and they sit right here, and this whole section ends up getting rotted out. The reason why this is cut out for two reasons. One, they were in really good shape and we used them for patch panels on a different car, but two, it allows you to see just exactly where all the dirt and crap goes and sits in there. Again, rusting from the inside out. And as we move along, the rocker panels. Yep, these are pretty crusty the whole way back. And the reason why they go undetected is because they're covered by a plastic trim panel. This is plastic. What you need to be looking for is up in here further. You can see this one starting to get crusty. You're never going to see that with this plastic trim panel in place. If you're looking for one of these cars, you don't need a hoist. You can just take your hand and feel up in there for the crustiness. If there's holes, doesn't mean you got to walk away, because they are an easy fix. And I did do a video on that if you want to check right up here, which again, you don't need a hoist, but it certainly helps. Let's take a look at one more common rust area on these cars. This portion of the rear fender is commonly known as the dog leg. Don't know why, kind of how it is. But again, moisture and rocks and sand get back in here, hold moisture, and it starts causing paint peeling and chips. Eventually you're going to have to replace this section right here, which is great because it's mostly flat metal with a slight little bend here. Doesn't take a whole lot of experience to get this fixed up and looking like new. Yeah, we got to do it on this one. As an added bonus, pull up the carpet in the trunk floor and just take a look in there. There are plugs, but if it holds moisture, it's going to rust from the inside out. Now folks, people from the north look at rust differently than people from the south. We look at it as there's good rust and there's bad rust. People in the south, they look at all rust and say it's bad because, well, they just don't have it on 20-year-old cars in most cases. So here we call good rust if it's brown and a little bit rough. That's one thing. But if it's scaly and crap is falling off of it, it's not bad rust, it's just a lot worse and more effort to get it fixed up. So now that we've talked about cosmetics, now we're going to get into mechanical, and this is going to happen in kind of two stages. One is what I can show you from out here, and two is what I can show you from the hoist. So let's take a look by popping the hood, and I'll show you a couple of mechanical things to be on the lookout for. If you have the opportunity to start the car cold, that's recommended because there's a couple of things that you need to listen for. Now, did you hear that little tiny bit of a quick rattle? It lasted for about 2 seconds when I first started up? No? Let me play it again. That's a timing chain tensioner that is failing. It loses its oil pressure prime and slacks off on the timing chain, causing it to rattle for a second or two before this engine starts up. This engine needs timing chain tensioners and new chains. And if it doesn't do that upon startup, wait till it's warmed up and listen to see if there's a little bit of a clacking noise coming from the front. It'll be noticeable. Again, this car does it with 240,000 kilometers, and the more mileage and idle time that these cars have, especially with the P71 and P7B cars, they're going to be more prominent. So make sure you're listening for it. The second thing is power steering. This is your power steering pump down here. If they're going bad, they're going to make a high-pitched whining noise, and they're a bit of a son of a bitch to change. Again, while we're under the hood here, we're going to be looking for things like oil leaks around the valve covers. We're going to be seeing if we can smell some coolant, because if you smell coolant, chances are your intake manifold is leaking. If the thing is surging, idling up and down all on its own, the intake manifold is probably leaking. And despite what all the online experts say, the Dorman intakes are a lot cheaper, and for the daily driver, the person who's just going to go back and forth to work and drive around town and not really do much for the car, is an adequate replacement. On these later model cars, say 03 and 04 and up, they didn't have the ejecting spark plug issues as much as the previous models, but nonetheless, it is still known to happen to blow a spark plug out. Just be aware, you're going to hear it. It's going to be a really hard snapping noise, and chances are one of your ignition coils here is going to be jumping all over the place. While we're right here, this is your blower motor. They have been known to go bad. I've replaced a few of them, and I'll leave a link right over here for a video that I did on showing you how to replace that, as well as the blower motor resistor. The resistor is a little bit more difficult, nonetheless, pretty basic change out. Transmissions. A lot of people will argue that these things have bad transmissions. Just like anything else, all transmissions are bad if they're not maintained. You're going to want a white napkin. Why white? Let me show you. Because white will show you the true color of what transmission fluid is going to be. It should be red, like this one. But if it's brown or black, it hasn't been serviced in a really, really long time. Just keep that in mind. The other thing you want to do, smell it. Transmission fluid has a very distinct burnt smell if it's burnt, and it'll make you turn up your nose. If you smell that, put the dipstick back in and walk away, unless you're prepared to spend several $1,000s on a transmission rebuild. Now that we're on the interior, there's a couple of small little gadgety things that you got to be aware of. One is these panels for the window switches generally are almost always broken. If the window regulator has failed, which it probably will at some point in time, somebody's been into that door and they've broken the tab on the back side of that. Therefore, every time you go to grab that door and slam it closed, it's going to pop out of place because there's no tension on it anymore. Throw a screw in it, tighten it up. If your Panther has automatic climate controls with a digital readout, these have been known to go bad. They're not as common as the blend doors, which we'll get to in a minute, but when these go bad, the seals on the inside are failing, not allowing the vacuum actuation to work. It is fixable, but in most cases, you've either got to send it away to have it rebuilt, you can rebuild it yourself, or you've got to buy a new one. And what that affects is it affects the switching from your defrost to your dash to your floor. And that problem is not to be confused with the blend door, because this part of it runs on vacuum actuation, like I said. The blend door, that's an issue. It's not a matter of if, but when the blend door that switches the hot to the cold fails you on these cars. Once again, I did an entire video on how to fix that by making a few cheat codes. That video is going to be right up here. As much of a pain in the ass as it is to do that job, it's really not horrible. Customer comes into my shop and wants that done on their Crown Victoria, Grand Marquis, or Town Car. Probably going to cost them a couple $100 labor. The part themselves, 25 to 50 bucks. Another minor issue is this display generally does not work on a lot of cars. It's an easy fix once you get this piece out. there is a bad solder joint in there that you can just reheat, resolder that back together. Usually brings the power back to this display. These cars have what's called a lighting control module. From my experience, there's going to be an argument in the chat here. These cars do not like LED bulbs. Headlights is one thing, but cornering lights, brake lights, turn signal lights, I've found in my experience that the lighting control module does not know what to do with the lower amperage that these things draw and can give you some problems. The lighting control module on its own has a failure point to begin with, which should be covered under Ford's recall if it's not been done. If it's never been done, it'll be repaired for free. However, if it was done once before in its lifetime, they won't warranty it under the recall again. You're on your own for that one. And the lighting control module I did not get a video on because at the time, the Grand Marquis that I owned, it was covered in the recall. So I sent it to Ford and they looked after it for me. Now let's get this thing in the garage, get it up in the air. I'll show you a couple of things to look out for while it's up on the hoist. So if you have the opportunity to get this thing up in the air, one of the biggest things you want to look for obviously is leaks. That's the same on any car. These ones are no different. There's nothing specifically that you need to look for, but take a look around the base, around your drain plug, and between the base pan and the bell housing, because if there's oil coming out here, these do have an inspection plug. You can pull that. If oil comes out, you might have a rear main seal going. That's a common thing to check on any vehicle. So the biggest reason why we're under here, and you can see it from the top side, but down here it's a little easier, is the exhaust manifold, which is this piece right here. If it is chunky and flaky and maybe even has holes in it already, these cars are known for those things rotting off the engine and basically disintegrating on themselves, causing a very bad exhaust leak. So if you're going to get those done, left and right side, if you live in the Northeast, everything's going to be rotted. The bolts, the studs, you could be into this for a full day's labor, if not more. It's a big job and a pain. So if the exhaust is already leaking and you know that those are bad, buy this car, but price it accordingly. One more thing to look at is this steering shaft. There are no less than 3 joints on it, and if they go bad, they will start to seize up as you're going around the corner, make you think the power steering's bad. It's not. It's usually these joints. It's an easy fix. An average DIYer can do that in about 20 minutes, but you're going to have to buy one of those online. Probably going to cost you $100 or so. This car is a 2007, which means your shock and your coil spring are integrated into one, whereas on the 02 and older cars, and a separate coil and shock for front suspension. The ball joints were known to go bad, and when they did, you could actually pop the joint out and your wheel would cock off sideways, and known to do damage to your fender if you don't catch it. So for all you guys looking at 02 and older, check the ball joints. Check them regularly. And back here in the rear, a couple of things to check is this watxhing. This is part of your suspension built right onto your Ford 8.8. If those joints go bad, this can clunk around and it can cause some ill handling. But back here, you also want to be checking the gas tank straps. They were known to get rusty and break. And this gas tank is mounted lengthways and vertical. So if those straps break, guess where that gas tank's going? Yep, she's dropping down and falling on the ground and dragging, creating a potential issue. When it comes to rust, you notice this car has a little bit of scale on the trunk floor on the underside. Well, it's a product of where we live here in the Northeast. Also up into these rear fenders down at the bottom. Check there because it's a common spot to hold dirt and sand. This one's no different, and it will rust out that seam on both sides. And no matter how rusty the car is, even if it's as rusty as that 2009, on the 03 and newer cars, I haven't seen too much with frame issues on them. They're very robust, but if you have the opportunity to get in there with a garden hose a couple times a year to spray out the channels, get some of the loose stuff out, that's going to help you out a lot. Let's take a look at a few of them holes. Back here in the rear section of the frame by the trunk, you've got a hole here, one here, and it's open at this end. So if you take your hose and spray it down through here, it's going to wash all that out. Up here, same thing, right in front of your rear wheels, is you've got a hole here, you've got holes all along here, and this one here is not holding anything in. and you've actually got a cap in here that you can pop out and spray all that down in there. This one has been done several times, and we do keep it undercoated, but this is what happens. Even though we undercoat it every year, you got to go back and give them a top up, because if you don't, you're going to get spots that the rain washes off from your tire spray. Same thing with these control arms. So just a lot of work needs to be done to maintain these things. Now, I mentioned earlier about rocker panels. This is no different. Even though this car has been undercoated, I've only owned it for 4 years. So whatever rust was starting long before I got it. But you can see it's starting to cause a problem here and a little bit more forward up there. And on this side, there's actually a hole right there. So this is something that's going to have to be addressed before the next safety inspection. Because here in New Brunswick, we can't have rust holes in our cars. So there's just a brief walk around of things to look for when you're buying a Panther platform car, a Crown Vic, a Grand Marquis, or a town car. And if you like seeing videos like this, please, I encourage you to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed. You see that Ford half-ton sitting on the lift behind me? It's a former government truck. And when you see them come in, looking like this, all scratched up, all through the woods, and you can see where the Department of Natural Resources sticker used to be on the truck. A lot of people are going to wonder, Jason, are you ever going to get that thing to shine again? Well, the answer to that is yes, we always get them to shine again. As you can tell on this one, we've already started buffing on it. So here's the first round of buffing. And we move up here, you can see where the old scratches were. So that's what we started with. This is kind of the mid-process. We're going to go back over this with a polish. If you guys want to see more of the restoration on this truck, or you want to see me do a similar video on this truck that we just did with the Crown Vic, let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm always looking for viewer feedback. I don't do these videos for me, I do them for you guys. If there's something that you want to see, well, hit me up. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I am posting several times a day with my Am I Right or Am I Right videos. And just like this car here, the Panther platform cars, in my opinion, are some of the best cars in the modern era. Am I right or am I right? And guys, if you want to support the channel in more ways than just watching these videos and subscribing, head on over to my merchandise store. It's the first link in the description box down below. You can get yourself an Olde Carr Guy hat, t-shirts, hoodies, beer koozies, you name it. Stickers are all over there, and it helps me do some of these videos that we do, work on some of the projects that we're working on, and I really appreciate the support. Stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I love you guys. God bless. Let's do it again in the near future in the next video. And come to think of it, I probably should have did an oil change on this thing while I had it up in the air. Well, good thing the hoist is not too bad to set up because it is on a frame. Just slide them in, get it up on the frame, lift it up, and we'll do that oil change, I guess. So not too bad. If you're a DIY guy, these cars are some of the easiest cars to work on. And you don't even need a hoist.